Hey, welcome back to another episode of Fertility and for the podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Jackson, and we are talking all things PCOS on this episode. And I am not an expert. I'll be honest. I do not think I was aware of a PC or ORS before I got into this community over the last several years, and it's very similar to endo. I feel like with endometriosis, I also had no idea what that was until I found out that I had it on this journey. So I think there are a lot of women in this space who either get diagnosed or have not been diagnosed, or again find out through going through a fertility journey that this is something that could be affecting their success or their outcomes, and they're like, what is this? And how come no one has ever educated me on what this is and how it can affect me? So we're going to try to do our very, very best to educate you all on PCOS. If you have no idea what it is, that's fine. If you are living with it, if you are well versed in it, I am sure there is still something that you could learn, because I learned something literally new on every single episode. And I'm also thrilled because it's our very first episode tackling this condition in its entirety. So we have not had a full PCOS episode. So I'm excited, and I am so happy that I'm not by myself, because I am no expert, but Megan Stewart is. So we'll get into the bio. I always make sure I have all the facts right. So first and foremost, Megan is the founder and executive director of the PCOS Awareness Association, which is a nonprofit dedicated to educating, supporting, and empowering those affected by the condition. So since 2012, she has been leading the charge to make this a global organization, a leader in PCOS advocacy and patient empowerment, which we absolutely love. Under her guidance, this organization has launched transformative initiatives such as PCOS Con, Shades of Teal membership, Men of Teal, and the forthcoming Search for a PCOS Specialist platform. That's going to be dope and changing the game. She's also done a million other things, and we'll have all of that in her complete bio when we release the episode. But she's also someone who gets it because she is a PCOS girly. So she is speaking from experience and taking that experience and turning it into action. And that has been one of the highlights of being with this podcast and speaking to each of you all, because almost every single guest has turned their experience, their pain, their journey into an actionable something, right? An organization, a book, a group, a business, a side hustle. And we're all like, hey, we're here to help, because we didn't find help when we probably needed it way back when. So with all that being said, Megan, welcome to Fertility Ain't Fair.
Thank you so much. And first, I have to say, I don't think anybody's an expert on PCOS.
Fair.
I don't even think the experts are experts on PCOS, because
that is fair. But you know more than we do. And so at this point, you are our point of contact for PCOS.
I can be a point of contact.
Yes, and we appreciate that. So as always, we have so much to unpack. So let's go ahead and jump in. And as with every guest, we'll start with the question, how are you currently defining yourself in this season, in this space of life? We're getting to know you for the very first time. We have the bio, but what's not on the bio?
I live a eventful life. And that's kind of a pun, maybe intended, maybe not intended. So outside of, being the founder of PCOS Awareness Association, I also work a day job. I also own a couple of other businesses, one being an event venue. So things are busy all the time. So I would say today's definition would be just busy. as we started off, right? Like we said, life is lifing, most definitely. I feel like I don't know about you, but I feel like January went by like that.
Yes.
I just looked up and it was like, oh, we're almost into February.
I agree, 100%.
Most definitely, yeah.
Busy it is. So managing all of these things, Let's get into the PCOSAA. So
Yeah.
before we get into organization, so I think, ground zero everything. I think we should assume that anyone listening knows anything about the condition. So let's start with the basics. How do you and your organization, how do you define what PCOS is? And because I don't know this, is there a cause? Like, is there a known cause about, how this comes about in your body and how it affects you at this point?
Right. So I would have to say the name is deceiving, right? We've got polycystic ovarian syndrome is the name. Um, Super deceiving. They're actually in the midst of trying to change the name. So more to come on that. But essentially, it's not just ovaries, right? It's what we're calling an endocrine hormonal disorder. It's literally affecting one's being from head to toe. And when I say head to toe, I literally mean head to toe. So if we're talking just some of the symptoms here, on the head, you're going to probably lose your hair on the top of your head. You are probably going to grow it elsewhere, like face, neck. I've got friends that have PCOS. It's hair on the chest, hair on the back. We're going to think of it almost as a one of the things, if you're getting a blood test, that they'll notice is that your testosterone levels are higher. So if you're going to think about it that way, then you're also going to think male pattern baldness, and then that's the losing the hair on the head, and then you're going to turn around and grow a beard, unfortunately, right? Then we're also talking weight gain. A lot of women with PCOS are, carrying around a little extra weight. Like you said, it is the actual number one cause of infertility in women. And that's normally when women are being diagnosed with PCOS, is because they're finding that it's hard getting pregnant and they're not sure why, what's going on. They go to the doctors, run a bunch of tests, and lo and behold, it's PCOS. It's actually, it kind of like tricks your body into believing that you're diabetic. So that's why a lot of women with PCOS are prescribed metformin, which is a diabetes medication. We have what's called insulin resistant, PCOS, and that's also going to play into, the weight gain. The funny thing is that symptoms are constantly being found, right? I literally, at least once a year, I'm being notified about another symptom with PCOS. And that's why it's so hard to diagnose, right? Because my PCOS looks different from somebody else's PCOS. One of the symptoms that actually shocked me and made so much sense a few years ago was tooth decay. I was literally going to the dentist like all the time. Couldn't figure out why. I was like, I take care of my mouth and my teeth health and all that stuff, and what's going on? And then I sat in a medical meeting about PCOS, where it was just a bunch of medical professionals giving presentations about PCOS, and one of them was a dentist, and everybody was like, why is she here? And she stood up and she gave literal facts and statistics around PCOS and tooth decay, and I was like, makes sense. So it goes along with that diabetes, right? A lot of diabetics, they have tooth decay issues, so right there along with it. Some other symptoms of PCOS are anxiety and depression, high anxiety and depression. And those are some symptoms that I have, right? Constantly dealing with trying to manage my anxiety. My poor boyfriend. That's all I have to say. Like he's probably like, what is wrong with her today? So those are some of the symptoms of PCOS. They're always coming up with new symptoms, and it always amazes me to correlate those symptoms to myself and others that are suffering from PCOS. Again, it's difficult to be diagnosed with PCOS, in the sense of there's a statistic out there that says it could be like 2 to 3 to 7 years for somebody who is suffering with PCOS to be formally diagnosed. That's insane to me. Like, if I'm going to the doctor and I'm telling you, like, there's something wrong. And I'm being, you know, gaslight, all the things of that there's nothing wrong with you. And then lo and behold, you go to another doctor and they're like, it's PCOS. Again, that goes back to what I said. There's no real expert. It's on PCOS. Nobody knows. And then you had asked the question about if it's genetic or where is it coming from? They don't know. They have no idea. There's so many different genetics, what we eat today, just your environment. There's so many different reasons on why PCOS exists that they just can't figure out what the main cause is. And that's something that also just irks me.
A lot already. So check out the box. I definitely was aware of, you know, like the diabetic type of symptoms. I had heard women talk about the weight gain and the hair and those kind of things, but tooth decay is wild.
Right.
You know, and the fact that, again, I agree, people are not experts, and again, I don't want to correlate because they are not the same thing. But as someone who has endometriosis, it sounds very similar in terms of hard to diagnose. Can take upwards of 7 to 10 plus years to get a diagnosis. Same stats on this side, and for Black women, it's even more years because
Even worse.
same reasons, right? Like no one believes your pain, you're fine, the scans are fine, the blood work is fine, you know, you're fine on paper, but you're not fine. And then again, you can't find anyone who really understands the condition. And again, I love that we keep finding new things to connect the dots back to it, because it does help. I think, you know, it validates you. It makes you like, hey, I'm not losing my mind. You know what I mean? Like I knew something was wrong, or I felt this way. And so again, very, very similar in terms of it's a full body condition.
Yep.
And I think, you know, the same with endo is that it was limited to be a period condition or to be a reproductive condition. It's a full body condition. You know, same as PCOS, that affects every part of your body. And it is, you know, part hormonal, part, again, same things, environment, food, genetics, whatever, but who knows really, right? No one. And so I'm glad that, you know, you are doing the work from a space of being a patient, you know, and to advocate, but also from a space of this organization is here to shed light and continue to push and support, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of diagnosis, let's talk about your story. So tell us about how you found out you had PCOS and kind of like what was your journey to get to that point? Was it multiple years? Did you know something was wrong? Kind of, you know, what was your path to get to that diagnosis?
Yeah, I feel like I share this story often, and I apologize to anybody that has heard this story, but it is my story. And it's crazy because my story is similar to a lot of other women's stories with PCOS, and it's sad to hear that. Just because, yeah, I actually started showing symptoms around the age of 9. And if it wasn't for my mother, I don't know where I would be today, or if I would even be today, because mine was a bit on the extreme side, right? So from ages 9 through 16, my mom just knew something was up. She knew something was wrong and she wasn't getting the answers that she was like looking for. I just remember, again, I was young. I just remember being like, okay, Megan, time to get up. Person being like, again, what is happening here? Right. And some of the symptoms that I showed were weight gain, hair loss on the face. I'm sorry, hair loss on the head, hair growth on the face. My mood swings were insane. To this day, my mother says I owe her because of my mood swings. I'm like, really, lady, we could get over it. So yeah, I just was not, I also had pelvic pain. I was in a lot of pain, and the one time that I do remember, like, I don't remember I remember going from doctor to doctor, but I don't remember like the outcomes from being at those doctors, except for one. There was one I remember because it made me pretty upset, and it made my mom very upset. We were told that it was in my head. and that I was faking things to get out of school. Yeah, yeah. I think that was about the last doctor that I had seen before I was finally diagnosed. My mom, again, if it was not for her, I don't know. I don't know where I would be. But finally, at the age of 16, I still had not had a menstrual cycle. I was just my. If you ask my mom, she will tell you that I was backed up. She will literally say I was backed up and that's where the weight came from. Like, ma'am, that's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. But I hadn't had a cycle. She was told that it was from everything from that it was just puberty and I just have to get through it, or I just need to lose the weight, or the ultimate one that really just pushed her over the edge was that it was in my head and I was faking things to get out of school. I remember her taking me to an OBGYN, and I think the only reason why I remember this particular OBGYN because that's the one that diagnosed me and that's the one that I stayed with until adult ages, right? She said, we went to her and she said, "Oh, I mean, you have PCOS." I just remember being like, huh? And even then, here's kind of like what we're trying to get medical professionals not to do, right? Even then it was, oh, don't worry about this until you don't have to worry about this until you're ready to have children. And at the time, of course, I'm 16. I'm like, ew, I don't know, thanks. Like, that's not on my mind. That's not what I'm thinking of. But at the same time, for me, here's the extreme part. For me, I was also diagnosed with cervical cancer in that same meeting, right? Because I had a pelvic exam, all the things happened and was diagnosed with cervical cancer. So it was really like, let's take care of this before we even think about the PCOS portion of things down the line. And I didn't think about PCOS until maybe 21, 22, when I actually had I had went to work. I sat down at my desk at work and I just remember all my coworkers being like, what's wrong? Something's wrong. Like, color was just out of me. I looked clammy. I felt just nauseous, sick. And I immediately called my mom and was like, hey, meet me at the ER. She met me at the ER. They ran a whole bunch of tests. They came back into the room and they were just like, oh, well, we've seen your file that you have PCOS. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, I remember being diagnosed with that. What's that again? And they were like, this is just something that you're going to have to deal with. Your cysts are rupturing. That's it. That's it. Like, bye. We'll see. We'll talk to you later.
So you go to the ER and they're like, hey girl, PCOS, no big deal. Like you're having ruptured cysts, which is a whole thing in itself, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they're like, take Tylenol, go home. Like, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember them hugging me up to, IV and being like, hey, we gave you fluids. Bye. See ya. And it was that moment that I to this day remember my mom when we were leaving the ER. She said to me, Megan, I see it in your face. What are you about to do? And I was like, I'm not living with this. This is not my life. We're not doing this. So I just remember going on and at the time there was really no social media. I'm old. So there was really no social media and Craigslist was like the place to be, right? I remember going on Craigslist and going on to the there's like a message board on Craigslist. It's almost like modern day Reddit, right? And I searched PCOS and there happened to be like 2 or 3 other women in the chat that were like, what's PCOS? And I have PCOS and I need help. And I was just like, man, what the heck is going on? What is this PCOS? And I started doing like my own research. And I had found out that the official color was teal. So thanks for having the teal background here. I love it. I had found out the official color was teal and that September was the official month. And everything that I found though was not like, nothing was consistent in the information. There was an organization out there, it was one organization out there that was giving information, but then when you actually like Google PCOS, there was just, the information was everywhere. It was just like we talked about before, right? It's genetic. No, it's hormonal. No, it's this, it's that. And it was just like, what is this? This can't be right. What is this? And then on top of that, nothing was really saying like, okay, well, if you're dealing with this, you should do X, Y, and Z. Or if you have extra hair growth on your face, you should do this. Nothing was actually giving resources and information. And then on top of that, there was no like real support. Yeah, there was an organization, another nonprofit out there. At the time, it's just one nonprofit out there that was, dealing with PCOS, but nothing that was like, I could talk to other people with PCOS, or I could not feel alone, right? I could actually relate to somebody with PCOS. My dad is one of 9 children, and my mom is one of 4. I have a big family, right? My family is very close. Everybody was now, after an ER visit, everybody is, of course, calling me like, hey, what's going on? What happened? What's wrong? What's going on? What were you in the ER for? At the time, I was like, it's PCOS. And everybody else was like, what the heck is that? And I was like, you tell me. I have no idea which one of y'all gave this to me. So it was very much like no information, no support, right? So I decided that I was going to inform, get all the information that I could gather and inform my family and friends that were asking me questions. Again, official color is teal. I said, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to make some handmade teal bracelets. To which then I handed out to my family and friends and was like, PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, here's some symptoms, here's information that I found and that is consistent across all platforms that I could find. Now, if anybody asks you what this bracelet is for, now you can now tell somebody what PCOS is. Around that time, so that took me a couple of years to, from ER visit to really buttoning down and finding out what I could find about PCOS. That took a few years. And by that time, Instagram had hit the scene. And from that, I had a cousin that called me and was like, hey, I want like 20 of these teal bracelets. Bet. Let me go ahead and make you these bracelets and mail them off to you. She had gone on Instagram, and this was also around the time Wonder Woman had come out in the movie theaters. And, there's that infamous pose of Wonder Woman. She's like this. So my cousin had lined her arms with the teal bracelets and went on Instagram, posted a picture of herself like this. And was like, I fight for PCOS. I think she said, I fight for my cousin, tagged me, and then hashtagged PCOS. And I woke up like the next morning to tons of messages in my inbox on Instagram from people all over the world asking me or saying things like, I have PCOS. I've never seen this before. Where do I get one? Can I buy one from you? I ended up like not knowing, young and not understanding like the cost of things, right? I ended up making these bracelets and mailing them off to places like the UK, New Zealand, there was Australia, there was just all over the world, right? Not understanding that the postage to actually mail this stuff was probably more expensive than anything, right? But I got it in my mind, like, if this is what people needed and wanted, then I need to start doing this on a larger scale. This needs a voice. This needs a platform. This needs visibility. So I started then really selling those handmade bracelets to get pay for my 501c3, and that's when PCOS Awareness Association was born in 2012. So here we are. Many years later, I feel like it's only been a couple of years, but then when I look back at all the things that we've done, and I'm like, dang, we've been around for a while. We've been around for a while. We've done some pretty amazing things. Like, I'm very proud of my team and what we've accomplished, and I'm even more excited to see where we go from today.
Well, it was good. So I will not stop you in mid-flow because it was good information and that deserved just let it go. Couple things. So
Yeah.
one, you said that when you were at the doctor and the doctor was like, hey, you have this, but you don't need to worry about it until, later in life or when you want to have children. And that's something that we want to change.
Yes.
When it comes to physicians. And I completely agree with that because again, it seems like they're not giving you any resources. They're not telling you how to manage this. They're not telling you, what you need to know. It's almost like all of these conditions that they, deem as reproductive or women's health conditions, they want to put off until you're at childbearing age. And, think about the years, if you are diagnosed younger, right? The years that you're going to go potentially, right? Before you get to that point, you might want to, choose to expand your family. And then you're slapped at whatever age that is with all this information. And it's a lot versus just, hey, we have a diagnosis. Here's what it is. Here's how you manage it. And then here are some, I think, milestones, right? Like, when you hit puberty or when you, turn 20 something, you might have these different things happening. But I think to prepare you along the way, right, is the best step to take because it's a disservice, I think, to patients, especially, again, if you are, I think, fortunate enough to be diagnosed young, to be able to have that knowledge, so it becomes a part of your normal routine. So you're able to manage and find out what works for you, what doesn't. You said get medication if you need it, change lifestyles, all these things, a lot. I think a lot of, and again, I'm no expert, I'm a doctor, but I think there are a lot of, fertility issues that were not fertility issues had they been caught or managed or alleviated, right, in our adolescence. And so that was a key point that I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge that, if you are given a diagnosis, again, no matter what age it is, because I was told the same thing, like, oh, we found endo when we had this surgery for your fibroids, but don't worry about it, it's fine. It's fine. No big deal here. And in reality, it's the biggest deal of all time. But, we have to do a better job about, again, when you get a diagnosis to be able to educate and then manage moving forward. I also love that you educated your family and your friends.
Just hear me.
That story was awesome.
You want to take this
you take this, you learn, and you get these facts. And it's a brilliant concept and idea because, again, to have that support system, most people will ask me, like, well, how can I support you, right? And they don't either know or they really like, I just don't know. Like, I don't have the information. So, to be able to start educating yourself at the same time, educating family, friends, loved ones, whoever is around you, because you do need that support. And, that built in, like, hey, we're all advocating with you. And while I know nothing about it, or I'm never going to have it, I've never experienced it, like, I love you, I care about you. So to have your family be educated along with you was really, really, really smart. And I think, again, something that we have to do, I think sometimes when you have, a chronic condition or what have you, it's overwhelming. People ask you, well, how can I help? How can I help? Or I don't get it. Or, but
it's hard.
It's trying, but it's hard when you're in it to kind of always educate. Because again, you're learning going as well.
Right.
But I think when you're able to at least give them baseline information, right? Here's the basics. Here's what I know so far. And I will keep you all updated. And then they can ask, more specific questions, or they can say, hey, I saw this, is this does this make sense for you, or whatever it is, right? They can be a resource, or they can, again, advocate. But I think you doing that was also a really, really important note as well. So in terms of, I guess, treatment or management, because it is PCOS chronic. Like at this point, is there a cure for it, or is it so? Okay, so what are the things? I know we mentioned, like, metformin and, again, lifestyle changes, diet, all those things factor in, of course. But are there any other sources of treatment that you are aware of, or that you have also, used for yourself to manage the condition?
Right, right. And so that's really difficult because there is no one treatment, right? And I think that's something that I had to, we all, not just me, but I struggled with learning myself because I am not one to take medication. I can't stand it. I'm horrible at it. Like, it doesn't matter how like instilled the schedule is, the pill boxes, and I can't do it. Can't do it. So, it's very difficult because you have to treat each symptom separately, right? There's no one medication that's going to handle all things. If you're taking metformin, that's for the insulin resistance, right? That's not going to cure that's not going to help the hair loss or hair growth. That's not going to help, depression, anxiety. So you literally need to treat each symptom separately. I would say that, and that's different for everyone because, and it's funny that we say this because it's not only different for every individual person dealing with PCOS, but it's different even for that one person. Like at any given time, my hormones are going to be different, right? My hormones from last year are different from my hormones this year. Therefore, now I have to find a whole nother routine to fall into. And I'll admit right now, I'm in the boat of like from 2 years ago to now, 2 years ago, I lost a bunch of weight. Now I've gained it back. Now I have to figure out again, like what is going to work because 2 years ago, what I did isn't probably not going to work today because I tried it and it's not going to work. So I have to now figure it out again. And with that being said, we definitely promote at PCOSAA, we definitely promote like all things, right? We're not going to tell you that medications are bad. I mean, personally, I don't like medications, but that's me. But we're not going to tell you that, don't do it because you need to figure out what works for you. We're also not going to ram down your throat that you need to go on this diet or that diet or this fat or that or take GLP-1s. We're not going to do that. We are going to give you all the information so that you can make an informed decision for yourself. I think that's one of the largest things that people they struggle with, right? When you are diagnosed with PCOS and let's just say you are overweight, they're going to tell you lose weight. How? How? Because I kid you not, I smelled a cookie from down the street and I gained 5 pounds. So I kid you not. So it's very difficult to really be able to tell somebody what they should and shouldn't do because they need to figure it out for their own self. But again, we're going to try and give you all the different options so that you can make a decision for yourself or try the different options. Me, myself, one of the things that definitely helped me was first the root of me not having a period, right? Me not having a cycle was, as my mom would say, backed me up, right? So I needed to work on that. One of the things that I did and that worked for me, might not work for somebody else, but I would say just give it a try, is acupuncture. I went to a women's health acupuncturist specifically. And I told her everything that was going on and she was like, oh, okay, yeah. It was very interesting just hearing it from the Chinese medicine point of view, and that I had what she said I would probably do best in like warm climates because it was like I had mold growing in like dark places growing in me and that I just needed like warmer climates to be able to get rid of those dark places. So it was just very interesting. But I kid you not, 6 months of acupuncture, women's health acupuncturist, I have not had a missed a period in 10 years. I didn't, I haven't been seeing that person for 10 years. I literally went for 6 months and my period's been regular since. I haven't had any problems with my period. So I think that, finding what really like the bottom of your issue, right, with PCOS. And for me, it felt like it was the missed cycles. I could go months without a cycle. Even my first one was not natural. I had to take progesterone to start my first cycle. And that cycle lasted for 3 months, just straight. So for me, that was what I felt was the bottom of my PCOS was the missed cycles portion. I just think that, finding what works for you is what's best.
And I think that's the key part about, resources, right? Is that, we're all reaching for what's that thing that's going to unlock this condition to help me. And like I said, every single body is different. Even if you have the same exact symptoms, your body is different. Like I said, and year to year, month to month, week to week, your body is doing what it's doing. And like I said, I think it's important that you said that, what's happened 2 years ago or what helped me 2 years ago is not going to help me today.
It don't work.
Right. Like, try it to go to, but it tried. And that's important because it's exhausting having a chronic condition, right? And so, but I think knowing that it is also normal to have to change your routine. You're not abnormal for doing that, and you're not abnormal for feeling like, oh my God, again. Like, yes, unfortunately, yes. But it is part of the cycle of keeping your body in the best possible, space to manage it properly. I want to talk about really quickly how PCOS does affect, or can affect, I should say, fertility. So are you able to give us a little bit of insight on like how it could affect fertility and, also what your organization, I guess, moving forward is doing in this space to be a resource and how you could find out more information?
Right. So the fertility portion, I will be very honest with you. I have not dove deep into that personally because it's like for me, it's not on my radar. But I do have people in my team that are more versed into being able to discuss the fertility portion of it. But like I said, most women that have PCOS are diagnosed around the time that they are trying to get pregnant, and they cannot, it being the number one issue or the number one cause of fertility, infertility in women. So I think that when it comes to, I think that this is also where we start talking about where it gets its name, right? Polycystic ovarian syndrome and being in the ovaries. They automatically assumed that it was in the ovaries and this reproductive issue. And with that being said, the missed or non-existent periods, which means also missed and non-existent ovulation, and ovulatory condition, right? So it's going to cause infertility. But at the same time, I have like 2 or 3 friends that have PCOS, and they can't go a day without looking at a man and becoming pregnant. So there's, it's different. It's different for everybody. I've also heard a lot of women with PCOS that, like my first cycle, right? It's the opposite. It's not that they aren't getting a cycle, it's that they're getting prolonged cycles. So then if you're getting prolonged cycles, now again, where's the ovulation coming from? So that's pretty much all I can voice on that portion. In the past, we teamed up with a couple of like Shady Grove when it came to fertility and whatnot. We haven't done anything, I would say, within the last 5 years, But I think right now our focus is more of the reach of making sure that we are getting people actually diagnosed. We're getting not just getting people diagnosed, but getting the right people diagnosed. Because just like you said, right? Endometriosis, we've got endometriosis, fatty liver, Hashimoto's, and there's another one that look similar to PCOS, and people are being diagnosed with PCOS that don't have PCOS. So that's an ultimate goal of mine, is to make sure not only, people are being diagnosed in a timely manner, but the right people are being diagnosed, because it's not helpful being diagnosed with something that you don't have, or that you do have and you're being diagnosed with something else. So that's kind of like the focus right now. And then along with, just as you said, the family members, partners, friends, trying to make sure that your support system is there, because we often get messages from women that are dealing with PCOS and how alone they feel, and how you would be very surprised on that fertility level. We get messages from women who their culture is that if they do not provide a child, their significant other can do some pretty horrible things to them. And in that, like, the support for them, right? Where are they getting their support? Because their culture says that they are less of a woman and less of a person.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And I've heard, similar things in terms of fertility and PCOS. And again, everyone's different. So, right, it may be a hindrance for some, it may not be for others.
Maybe a problem. Maybe a
Right.
whole other problem.
Right, a whole other, right, so literally the polar opposite. That's what happens here. So for people who want to get in touch with you and your organization, how do they do that? How do they find you? And what can they expect if they reach out for some help?
Yeah, absolutely. So my team is funny because I started off with Instagram and Facebook. We've moved into YouTube. We've moved into, they recently, I think within the last 6 months, they were like, we need a TikTok. And I was like, I sure hope y'all don't think that I'm going to be out there doing any TikTok dances. It's not my life. So we have a TikTok now. We're on LinkedIn. We are on Pinterest. We're pretty much on all social media that you can find. And mostly the handle will be PCOS AA. Places like, I believe Facebook and LinkedIn, it's the full name, PCOS Awareness Association, but mostly PCOS AA. You can, like, I say this, and I know that you and I went back and forth on email. My email is packed, but I do give out my personal email because I love hearing the stories. I love knowing that something that we're doing is helping, whether it's, PCOS AA as a whole, or, you reach out to me and you ask a question and I respond. I strongly feel like this is my calling, right? This is what I've been put on this earth to do. So if you want to reach out to me, you are more than welcome to. And it's megan.stewart@pcosaa.org. I try and respond to everybody that writes in. Sometimes I can't. And the only reason why I can't is because, as Brittany and I spoke before, life be lifing, right? So please bear with me. And I want to say that is something in discussing, like, your different hormones, different stages of life. One of the largest things that I like to tell people, and that I need to practice myself, is giving yourself grace, right? Give yourself grace. I need to do the same. So most definitely.
We appreciate it. I just want to say thank you for being a resource. Thank you for seeing the need and creating a resource that you did not have. And you're not old, because I feel like we're about in the same elder millennial generation, actually. I feel like we're probably very close in age, actually. So, we are not old.
Great.
These things all sound very similar to yes. We are the elder millennial generation, and we are doing good things. We are just more seasoned than we were before.
That-
We have more knowledge now. Tons more knowledge. But no, I thank you and for what you're doing, what your team is doing. This was a really, really amazing episode in terms of just getting more information. We will, of course, have all the info for Megan. She gave out her email. Please reach out via website, social media,
all the things.
email, carrier pigeon, smoke signal, whatever you
Smoke
need.
signals.
Help,
That's
right?
the one.
SOS, whatever you, white flag. Like, she is here to help. And we're just so fortunate to have you as part of our larger Fertility Ain't Fair community now. So please take advantage of the resources. So with that being said, yes, with that being said, I'm excited for more conversations this year. I'm excited for more learnings, more education, and just helping everybody out. If we help one person every episode, I'm thrilled. And so with that being said, make sure you check out past episodes of Fertility Ain't Fair wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. If you are looking for help, please reach out. I can connect you. If you are looking for a topic or you have a guest in mind, please let me know. Slide in my DMs. You know, I slide back. And yeah, also newsletter. I'm going to put out a newsletter probably sometime in Q1. So please make sure you sign up for our newsletter. I know you probably in the past signed up and I gave you nothing. But I am
it's hard.
better. I know. I already know.
It's hard.
I feel like, once a quarter, I'm gonna give you something, and I'm not gonna spam you. I promise you that. But I'm already thinking September we might do a quick, newsletter and feature Megan in their organization for PCOS Awareness Month. But that's down the road. But for now, I just need you to sign up on our website at the very bottom for our newsletter, which will be coming soon. And in the meantime, as I leave every episode, I'm your forever friend in fertility. So stay hopeful.